Alright. Ooh, some hearty stew. Well, I've already got a food buff, so we won't bother with that. Alright, everybody, so welcome to Wing 2 of Vault of the Incarnates, LFR. This one is going to be interesting. So what this wing is going to feature is, well, so the first boss is going to be a straight-up DPS check type of encounter, because we're, of course, going to be on the clock.
I need a target.
The next one is sort of going to be like that, but not really. I'll explain when we get there, but it's basically just try to stay alive until the last phase, but if you can be able to do a lot of damage and lessen the amount of health the boss has by the time you get to that last phase, it's really going to help. And then the last one is a multi-phase encounter, and you'll see what I mean when we get there. I know I'm kind of like, look, I'll explain when we get there. So as we're making our way, this is just a big elite, which gives currency, which I don't recall if I actually explained, but basically you get the currency, you turn it into a vendor in the hub, whatever it's called, Valdraxxin, Valdrassus, whatever. Although apparently it doesn't drop in LFR, although apparently people are getting it, that thing there, that artifact. I for some reason didn't get one, but
headed towards us.
Whatever.
Let them come. My creations will rend their flesh from bone.
So, you'll probably recognize that voice. We encountered him in the Evoker starting area. And this is now where we are going to encounter him. He was the one who helped free Razageth from her prison. But we will get to him in a bit. Before we can get to Kurog, we are going to be first taking on a big elemental who's in the ground. It's very similar to another boss that was back in Blackrock Foundry in Warlords. In fact, he also is a encounter kind of similar to Mozala back in the other side, and that is Teros. Primalus sought to pull Teros, an unyielding force of destruction from the elemental plane. However, the ritual was interrupted. Trapped between two worlds, this hulking terror seeks to free himself and obliterate everything in his path. So this is kind of a similar situation to what the Dark Iron Dwarves were having to try and do back in Vanilla, when they were really just trying to summon a very powerful elemental to help defeat their enemies and save them, but they accidentally summoned Ragnaros instead. But that was a different situation because it wasn't a matter of their ritual getting interrupted, it was more so that they did the ritual in a rather improper manner. It was like, well, no, you're doing the ritual, but you're not doing it like, you're not supposed to do it like that. There's a proper way to do the ritual to make sure you can actually get them, there's the artifact, to get them to actually show up the way they're supposed to. Or to get the ones that you're actually trying to actually summon. This also happens for warlocks when they don't quite do a ritual correctly. We saw this in Legion, if you did the warlock initial starting point for the class order hall, getting your weapon, when we met the Black Council in Dalaran, and they were like, we need your help, warlock, to help summon a very powerful demon to fight the Legion. And the Leper Gnome messed up the words, which summoned a Pit Lord instead, which was a very bad result. Very similar to what happened in the Trial of the Crusader in Wrath, when Fizzlebang accidentally summoned Jaraxxus, Lord of the Burning Legion. And so that's what's going on here. They're trying to summon him, and we're going to interrupt them, and it's going to kind of mess things up here, where he's going to be here partly, but not entirely, and yeah, we're going to try and finish him off before he can actually, like, I guess make his way through and get to full power and such. So we're also going to see a very funny common thing where someone's going to summon something very powerful to defeat us, and then it's going to kill them. It's rather amusing whenever this happens.
Cowards! The elemental is almost to our plane! Be free!
Be free! It's like, yes! I have summoned the mighty... Oh, wait! Why are you trying to kill me? No! Yeah. Pretty much. So yeah, this is a DPS check fight. Basically, we are on a timer, and the reason why it's also a DPS check with a basically a hardened rage is that he's going to cover up a fourth of the room every so often. This also is a important kind of coordination check as well, because you got to make sure that the people know where to put the spikes, and then that the tank has to make sure that they lines up the attack from the boss to get rid of the spikes. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. Also, I have to be careful because I have accidentally dashed into that hole.
Target you.
Alright, so... Oh, I'm sorry. It's on me.
Watch your step.
Okay. So the important part there for me was that I didn't move, and that the others who had the other little circles made sure that they put it on the outer ring, so that way it would be where that is, and then when he does the attack, the tank lines up the attack to get rid of the spikes. And of course, you know, and there's the attack right there, that line. So that's why when he has that big thing that summons the spikes, we got to make sure that we coordinate it where we have the spikes kind of in a line, so that way the tanks can actually, yeah, so right here, that big circle and then the little circles, you see that? Now, I don't have that right there. It is something we got to soak, but it's more so to make sure we get the spikes. So it looks like in LFR, it's only 2 spikes, so it's not a big deal. Ow! My fault. Didn't get out of the way fast enough. I'm trying to talk and explain things to the viewers while, you know, risking getting hurt. Kind of splits my concentration. But this is a, you know, you can tell we have some really good DPS in this group. Because he's already at half health, and we haven't even gotten to the part where he covers a fourth of the room. Alright, so here it is. So you see how that's now covered up? So that covers up a fourth. So yeah, once he does that 4 times, if we don't have enough DPS, because that stuff is going to basically kill us.
Watch your step.
Well, that's unfortunate. We were a little uncoordinated there in terms of what direction we were going, and now there's a spike over there. But fortunately, we are doing so much damage to him, he's going to die long before that becomes an issue. So, this is LFR, so obviously it's a little more chaotic and uncoordinated. But if this was like, say, you know, an actual coordinated group, like, say, when my guild does it, we would be all together because we're also trying to bait him to... So now that this is up here, so what we have to now do is make sure that he, like, aims at this farthest part here, because if he kind of covers up a portion that we don't really need him to, it can kind of mess things up. Now that would be, like I said, in a normal situation here, which right now this is not, because we're about to kill this boss. Which just goes to show that it's really not that, not going to be that big of a concern, but that's why this is a DPS check fight. Plate, pass on that, pass on the dagger, pass on the mail, that's a neck piece, nope, I'll pass on that. Alright, so obviously our group very much has the gear. This is, I love when it bugs and it like spams these voice lines from the characters. So what's supposed to be happening here is Khadgar says, if Kura can manifest creatures this powerful, we should proceed with caution. We'll need to destroy any that remain before we confront him. Just as long as none of them are spiders. Wah wah. How funny, since, of course, the next boss is in fact a spider. Welp. That's not going to happen, because the next boss is going to be Senarth, the Cold Breath. Senarth, Kura Grimton's most vicious creation, is a massive arachnid infused with the unforgiving cold. Her singular purpose is to guard her brood of thousands, awaiting the day that they will hatch and enshroud Azeroth in a web of winter. So this next encounter, whew, it's rather amusing. It's also, again, this is another one of those encounters where there are times I'm like, ooh, thank goodness I'm a demon hunter. Because let's just say having the ability to dash on icy floor is actually a little handy.
I need to get closer.
I'm gonna go ahead and drop a darkness to let us deal with this. And this is why I liked having the talent that reduces the cooldown to 3 minutes, so in case things get hairy, like against this trash, I can go ahead and use it for these trash encounters, since they already pulled all of them, so we could go ahead and use Bloodlust. So it's like, okay, if we're going to go ahead and use Bloodlust, then fine, I'll just go ahead and also use Darkness, even though it doesn't necessarily get reset, at least I don't think it does. Maybe it does, I forget. So you'll see that's walled off, because of course we have to take down Senarth in order to get past there to encounter Grim Totem. Which, of course, anytime you hear the name Grim Totem, it's just like, oh gosh. Like, you pretty much know exactly what you're in for. Right, Magatha? And, of course, isn't it just fitting that, of course, the Grim Totems would work alongside the Primalists? Doesn't it just make so much sense?
I'm out of range.
And then, of course, he would probably be like, and now you will serve us! Because, of course, we know that that's how the Grim Totems love to operate. So there's supposed to be some dialogue here where Khadgar says, "This cold chills me to the bone." And we're like, why is it so cold and why is it so quiet? And then Senarth just, yeah, comes down. Alright, so yeah, you pull the trash there and that triggers the boss. They're part of that fight. So, we're about to have a lot of slipperiness on this boss fight because of cold and ice and a lot of ads, but the webs from those ads are going to play a factor here, using things from ads in order to counter other things in this fight, like the slippery floor. So, that big one there we have to take down right away because it does big AoE damage to the raid until we take it down. So we have to definitely focus on taking it down. The priority right now is to stay alive, first and foremost. Take down the big ad, and then use the little ads, because they will explode, having this slime that is going to counter a debuff that we get from the webbing. Because we can get 10 stacks of a webbing and it'll web us up and make us immobile. We can also get yanked off the edge and fall down, which will, depending on the difficulty, either stun you or outright kill you. Like on normal, it'll just stun you, but on heroic, it will kill you. But you see that little green explosion of slime there? That's to counter the webbing. So here's what I'm talking about. Look at this ice right here. It's all slippery. Now, even if I dash, it actually is not that helpful, which is, you know, quite amusing. But look at this webbing here. So yeah, we use this webbing. So she casts that, which pulls everybody. But the longer I stay on this, the more stacks I get.
Stack high.
10 applications that become wrapped in reps. How do you get rid of these stacks? That green slime that I showed you a moment ago from the little ads. So if I want to get rid of my 6 stacks here, I need to kill one of these spiders.
Sticky webbing. Sticky webbing.
Okay, now I have 8 stacks. This is getting a little hairy here. So I'll wait here for the explosion to happen. Bam, there we go. My stacks are gone. So now this happens. One of the best ways to counter this, get behind one of these. One of these pillars, and it'll prevent you from getting yanked off the edge. So the boss, you'll see, here's one of the advantages. Like I said, the main priority for this fight, if you do it on higher difficulties, is to stay alive and just get to the top floor alive. Because that's when the big phase against the boss happens. But the more damage you can do as you go up, it's going to help with that final phase. So now you either go to the far back, or you use the webbing, which will keep you in place. But like I said, we also have to make sure we take down this big ad here, because he's going to do constant AoE raid-wide damage until we kill it. So the moment he shows up, the priority of the raid should be take this thing down. Now you'll notice a lot of people are taking quite a bit of damage. We have quite a bit of people hurt or dying. Like I said, this whole segment here can get kind of nasty, which is why the priority right now is to just stay alive. And of course the ice making you all slippery is certainly going to be a problem when it comes to trying to make sure that you don't get yanked over the edge. So yeah, because we have so much DPS and, you know, I'm pretty sure our group is very well geared. This is not like a starting LFR group where it's a bunch of under-geared players. These are probably either very geared characters or even alts that are... You'll notice that I dash to try and counter the yank there. That is a thing I can do. Apparently I'm also spawning little... Oh, I'm also spawning the webbing. Oops. But you know what? That's fine, because people can just go over here to prevent getting yanked off if they want. We're probably going to kill this boss before we actually get to the top floor. That's funny.
Frost breath arachnid.
So the boss immediately went to the top floor because we were killing it so fast, it was like, yoink! Up to the top floor. That is funny.
Freezing breath. I need a target.
Alright. So then Caligo says, I wish Alexstrasza were here. This whole den should be cleansed with fire. Pretty sure he's not a fan of arachnids. I don't blame him. I am not either. So yeah, on LFR that seemed, you know, of course we have a pretty geared group, so that didn't seem that bad. But on higher difficulties, especially if you don't have very much gear, let's just say that we had to take quite a few pulls to really get that down and make sure that we all stayed alive till we got to the top in order to pull that off. So, now that we have taken care of those two, it's time to finally take on Kurog Grim Totem. Once a prized pupil of Magatha Grim Totem, this master of the primal elements is preparing to unleash his most devastating creations. If Kurog is not stopped, his entities of storm, fire, ice, and earth will wreak havoc across the whole of Azeroth. Need I remind you that the Grim Totems are dark shamans.
Too far away.
Which is why you're seeing so much of this kind of power on display here by Kurog. Because, like I said, this just makes a lot of sense for the Grim Totems. So of course, Kurog being a end of wing boss, let's just say that his encounter is, at least in normal, I have yet to encounter what's like in LFR. But on normal, let's just say it's like, whew, this could be a long encounter because it's got multiple phases. I think it's pretty cool, but boy, you got to make sure you know what you're doing and that you stay alive long enough. I will admit that I did have some struggles trying to do this fight. But that's only because I was still trying to learn how the fight worked.
You dispatched a few of my playthings, nothing more. Now comes your doom.
So, this is also a, whew boy. So you'll see that big circle in the middle. We have to keep him out of there because he will just get stronger with all 4 elements and just eventually kill us. You'll notice that this room is divided into 4 parts, each of the 4 elements. When we have him stand in that area, he builds, because you'll see the 4 different buffs he has right now, which is Flame Dominance and Frost Dominance, of each one. The more stacks he gets, the stronger he's going to become for that element and do more damage to us based on that element. Which is why we have to basically kind of keep him going around and around, trying to keep the stacks from getting too high. But there's going to be a point where he reaches certain health, where he then goes to the middle and we can't really attack him, and he summons big adds based on the elements to attack us, and we have to kill them in order to get access to actually fighting him again. So, yeah. This fight, whew, boy. This is it's pretty crazy in that regard. It's definitely a big coordination. You definitely have to make sure you know what you're doing and coordinate here with your group to pull this off. But I really like this encounter. I think this is a really fun fight. Once you know what you're doing, I think it's a really cool encounter. In terms of like how the fight is designed and such. I mean, how good it is obviously going to be for other people to decide.
The master of primal elements.
But I think the idea of this encounter is actually pretty cool. So you'll see he's getting storm stacks. He then does something based on the element that he's currently standing into us.
Shocking
Thunder
burst.
crash.
I forget what the percentages are, or what trigger the phases, but yeah, it's like multiple stages.
Help
Your
Strike.
clouds bring your destruction.
Shocking
Thunder
burst.
crash.
I will say, I do think his appearance looks really cool. And the fact that it also changes elements, I want that for my shaman. Like, I am serious. I would love to have this for my shaman. And if this is something I can actually farm for my shaman, like in this raid on a shaman, I will absolutely plan on doing that later on. When it becomes more feasible to actually farm stuff from this raid.
Trembles.
So I'm trying to see where it says
Run.
because so far he has not done that, and I'm kind of waiting for it to happen. I'm like, are we just and I'm now starting to wonder, did they get rid of that in LFR? Nope, here we go. Stage 2. So yeah, now he summons 2 big elemental elites. In this case, it's Earth and Air. And we have to take these down before we can continue the fight against Kurog. Like, to me, this is just an awesome encounter to really showcase why the power of a dark shaman is nothing to flinch at. Or nothing to, how do I say this properly? Nothing to just be like, about. Don't shrug it off, because this is what dark shamans are really capable of. And I think Kurog is an excellent example of that because he comes across in this fight an encounter as a powerhouse. So now we're in the Altar of Frost. So now I love that it changes his appearance based on the elements. So now it's all ice and frost looking. So now he's going to utilize frost and ice abilities. Really cool stuff. Like I said, I really love the thematic feel of this encounter. And it's the kind of stuff that makes me go, man, this makes me want to hop on my shaman and be able to try and, have this kind of capability in gameplay. Like, this is the kind of stuff that makes me go, this is what I want my my shaman to be, but more specifically in the elemental spec. To me, this is what the elemental spec of the shaman should be about right here. Truly wielding the power of the elements in your hands.
Watch your step. Magma burst.
Like, I don't know, like, how many, like, people's ideas when it comes to class fantasies, but to me, this is...
Watch your step.
Like, a really good example of the class fantasy of the elemental shaman.
The master.
That is for a chest piece. And I already have a 395, so, I'll pass. The spamming of the dialogue here. This is hilarious. Trying to catch where he was like, I am the master. Yeah, I'm sure that's what Magatha taught you. So, Kurog and his creations will not threaten us again. We cannot afford to relent, not until we stop Razageth. And so now that we have taken care of the Council and Dathia and Kurog, we've cleaned all this up, now the final area opens up to us. Now we have the last two bosses of this raid encounter, which has now opened up, and I will be showing that in the next part. When we return, stay tuned for the final wing and the finale of the Vault of the Incarnates raid. Stay tuned.